Hi, so in this video I want to show you one very cool new feature, which is the Focus Rect Element, which allows you to offset your 3D focus point based on an HTML element to make your website responsive and the 3D element always adjusting to the available space. Like in this example, you can see that the sword and the shield flow down when the layout shifts or when the layout changes. And this is all handled by the HTML layout, by the CSS that you already have on your page. You don't need to worry about it. So let me quickly show you how it's done. So what we're starting here with is a regular 2D website. You can imagine this being built in Webflow or Framer or whatever website builder you're using. For the sake of this example, we're just using plain HTML since it's the simplest thing to do. I have already installed Needle Engine, and you can find how to do that on our documentation. So I'm pasting here the Needle Engine web component into my header element and I'm saving my file. And now you can see the 3D elements that I prepared before in Unity, but they can be prepared in Blender or they can just be a GLTF file. They show up here. And I'm also defining the path to the GLB file. This is just locally now. In my assets folder, I have the new GLB that I exported. So this is the 3D scene I'm working with now. But what is really not nice is you can see here the sword is overlaying or obstructing behind a little bit my text, and depending on the layout it doesn't really look nice. It doesn't respond to the layout shift or to the space that is available. It just stays there kind of statically, and that's not really what I want. I want the sword and the shield to move down when the available space shifts down, or I want it to move to the right and there's more space available to the right. How can we do that? I have already prepared my HTML layout into two pieces. I have a text element and I have what I call a Focus Rect element. And I can show you when I open the browser debugger. Yeah, in reality here are two divs inside. One is empty and one contains my demo header text. I can visualize it for you by just enabling the outlines here in the CSS. So now you can see two containers. And when the size gets smaller or the width of the screen gets smaller, one shifts down, the blue one. And when I make my screen wider, the blue one shifts to the right. So we have two columns. Yeah, but as said, the 3D elements, they just stay statically in the background, and let's change that. Matter of fact, this is super trivial, and now this is where the real fun starts, because Needle Engine 4.8, we introduced the concept of a focus rect. And to use it, we can give an HTML element to Needle Engine and tell it to, okay, shift the camera focus center to the center of this HTML element, whatever I give you. What we can do in this example is we can just give it a rectangle here. And we can use one of the Needle Engine hooks, our main TS. In this case, let's use the onStart hook. The onStart hook is called once at the beginning of frame of Needle Engine, and we can query our Focus Rect element. So let's check our HTML again. Our Focus Rect element has a class Focus Rect. We can name it whatever we like. The name doesn't really matter, but I just called it Focus Rect here. And I query it with the const div equals document query selector Focus Rect. And if we find it, then we can give that div to Needle Engine. The onStart method has one parameter, which is the context, and Copilot already suggests me what I want to do, like set camera focus rect is the new method that we introduced. And when I save the scene, you can see the content immediately shifted down to the center of this blue rect. And now when I make the screen larger again, you can see it moves around depending on the available space. You may also have noticed the 3D scene slightly moves around when I move my cursor. Let me quickly show you how that is set up in Unity. What we have here is a 3D scene with a sword and a shield. And the content is in the center of the camera. Let me show you the camera. Background color in the Unity scene is set to transparent because we don't want to render a color. I can change it to show you what happens if we make, like, let's say we have the purple color and I export the scene. And now on the web page you see, okay, now the background is purple. This may or may not be what you want. And sometimes maybe you load a 3D scene that already has a background color, in which case you can also override that in your HTML and just set background color to transparent on the Needle Engine web component. All these elements are documented on the Needle Engine documentation page, just you ever need to look up what options are available. You just head over to docs.needle.tools and there you find under reference Needle Engine configuration, and here you can see all the attributes that are available and that you can use to modify how your scene looks. Whatever is stored in the scene that you have been exporting, maybe from another tool. Okay, let's go back to our scene. So what I originally wanted to show you is how this camera movement is done. This is really simple. We just have used our look at component as before, toggled on inward forward because our set direction in this case is looking in the wrong direction. Like if I don't have that, it would be like this, and that's not what I want. So you can check the arrow. If it's looking in the opposite direction, just enable inward forward. I turned off keep up direction because I want the scene to look up and down as well and to rotate wherever it should be. And then I also have one game object that just follows my cursor. And I moved it quite close to the camera because I don't want the movement to be so extreme. And the closer it is, the less it will move horizontally because this screen coordinate will be projected on whatever plane this object is on. So when I move it closer, it will move not so far, which means the scene will not rotate as far. I can show you if I move it further away and I save the scene. You see now everything moves much more around when I move my cursor. And I can make it even extremer by just moving it almost at the same distance. And now you can see everything moves like a lot. Maybe this is what you want. And this is really up to you, up to your scene. Maybe you want to have the movement slower, so we increase the damping value. And now the movement is more extreme, but it's also much slower. And again, the same thing, it still works with the layouting. This is really unchanged. So this is what I wanted to show you in this video. I hope you like it. Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.